Neal, what made this trade deadline the right time to trade players of value that Taylor and that Austin have?
Yeah, it ultimately comes back to our belief in this core, this group of young players, players we have on the horizon, and what a player the caliber of Chris Archer and Keone Kella can mean not only to this year's team, but in Chris's case, the next 3 teams, and in Keone's case, the next 2 teams.
Neal, when did you get a sense that Archer was going to be a realistic option for you? Obviously, his name's been out there for several years now, and nothing ever came to fruition.
Yeah, we've worked through a number of cycles with Chris and Tampa. More directly, about 357, we realized that it had a chance to be a reality.
Neal, you must have changed directions with your team, maybe, as they went on that win streak. Can you talk about that a little bit? Did you start to think buying instead of anything else that you might have been thinking of?
Well, I think as we talked about on July 8th, we fell into the low point of the season. The week before, I was talking about adding to this club, talking about adding a reliever and anywhere else that made sense. Unfortunately, we lost some games to teams that we were chasing. We'd hit the low point in the season. And as I said, our optimism when we were in the offseason, as we were putting this group together, believing that this could be one of the 10 playoff teams in October that has a chance to win a World Series, that optimism had turned into realism. The team went on a great run, showed what we are capable of, showed what we did the first 40-some games, and all the credit in the world goes to these players, goes to these major league coaches. And so that realism turned a little bit more optimistic. And as we looked at the market, again, the ability to impact this year's club and put ourselves in a better spot this year, but it's also important that we've impacted next year's club and the clubs beyond that. And because of the outstanding work of our scouts, of our front office, of our player development staff, scouts both amateur and international, and professional, through the draft. I mean, most of these players were through the draft, Hearns through a trade. We were able to give up a significant amount of talent, but yet still feel that, okay, we have 12 of our top 15 prospects still in the system, and a lot of depth beyond there, and the faucet internationally is open wide again with Junior Vizcaino and his revamped staff and the things that we're able to accomplish internationally. We've got 2 picks next year above the normal draft. So we felt that this was the right opportunity to add to this club, but it was as important to be able to add to future clubs as well.
So what happened at 357?
It became official.
Did the last piece was them backing off somebody that you had been holding on to, or were you finally?
I wish it was that exciting. It was more just language and details and finalization. So no, it's not a big fun story, Tim, unfortunately.
The direction of the past 2 off seasons, just the moves you've made. I mean, when you were looking towards the future, was there something you saw as a possibility that if the core performed, the young guys developed the way that they could, that with the depth that you had developed, that you could go out and make a move into significance to add to what you already had?
Yeah, again, it's as we made the hard decisions we made this offseason with 2 incredible players that had terrific runs in Pittsburgh, both nearing free agency, but with the belief in the young players that were coming, the belief in the veteran players that were still here, the belief that our farm system was strong enough to withstand a significant trade or 2. We felt that, again, we were optimistic about what this season could be, but you felt even better about what future seasons could be. And again, I'm going to come back to that's why these moves made sense. Even though we gave up significant player value, prospect value out the door, we feel like we've acquired 2 really strong players that are going to help us win games this year and beyond.
Neal, how much did outfield depth throughout the system, Major League down, give you the ability to be flexible on Austin?
A little bit, with Gregory Polanco and Starling Marte, both under contract for multiple years, with Corey Dickerson able to go through the arbitration process one more time, with Jason Martin, Brian Reynolds coming behind, and then some younger guys coming behind them. Every time you feel like you have depth, you don't, so you need to be aware of that, but we do feel like we have opportunities to continue to have a really productive outfield, not only next year, but into the future, given some of the names that are coming behind, as well as the guys that are really playing at a high level now.
There's a follow-up to that on Dickerson specifically. It might be a little chicken and egg here, so answer it from whichever one makes more sense. But is Austin leaving heighten your desire to keep him around after this season, go through the arbitration process and keep him here in Pittsburgh? Or the fact that he played as well as he has since you got him, did that allow you to say maybe Austin's more expendable?
I wouldn't say Austin was more expendable. We know we've given up a player who's going to have a really, really good career. He was a must-have from Tampa. So to give up Austin wasn't a decision we made. It was a decision Tampa had to have, and we got to a point where we felt okay with that because we're so excited about the player coming back, Chris Archer.
You know, 13 through 15, I think we saw the excitement of, but also the brevity of wild card baseball. Last 2 years, as you said, it was kind of outside looking in at the playoffs, and you chose to do a little buying, a little selling, bringing on some players, and still looking toward the future a little bit. This year, you're still outside looking in, but what makes it different from the last couple of years? Where this year you said, all right, we're going to keep pushing and not really give up anything that's going to be that important this year.
Yeah, the makeup, the structure, the composition, the projection of each club is different, and we went in different directions because of a number of those factors and several others. Again, given the quality of the core, given the young players that we have, the young players that we still have on the horizon, the ability to add 2 players such as this, we felt pushed us into a higher level, and allows us to believe that we are going to be one of those teams that has a legitimate chance to make the postseason, for not only for this year, which again, we've dug ourselves a hole. We're putting the dirt back in slowly, but this was about this year as much as it is about next year and beyond.
When you're talking about next year and beyond, how much did the fact that Archer and Keller are both under team control and their contracts sort of fit in with your kind of core guys that are under contract for a couple of years, how much did that play into a part of those specific guys being the targets you looked for?
As we went through the markets, rentals, so to speak, or players that you'd acquire on expiring contracts, those are current year only type acquisitions. As we looked at the market, as we looked at this club, as we looked at where we believe we're going, how do we supplement that? How do we best impact that group? How do we best position ourselves for the present, but also for the future? And again, to get Keone with 2+ years of potential contribution, and who knows beyond that, to get Chris Archer with 3 years plus this year, where he's going to impact our wins. Those were really good gets in our mind.
Neal, as you listen to your scouts on Chris this year, you said you've been watching for a couple of years. Were there any difference in the reports that you got back this year? What did they like about him this season?
We understand the surface numbers aren't typical Chris Archer surface numbers. We are believers in what our scouts have seen and the quality of the pitches, the intelligence, the athlete, the competitor, how he goes about it. We believe that the underlying numbers that our analytics group has continued to pound us on, that we've had a lot of success with that type of model in the past. Obviously a much bigger bet with Chris Archer than it's been on any number of the pitchers that we've had success with in the past, but we believe the indicators are there that Chris Archer is still an upper echelon, top of the rotation starting pitcher. We're excited to get him in our ballpark. I'm sure he's excited to face one less hitter on a given night, or one less person that's paid to be a hitter on a given night. We're looking forward to Chris coming in here and impacting us.
Do you know reaction if you've talked to the players that are all the coaching staff? How much do you feel like that may change the public perception of the way the Pirates do business, that you work aggressively the deadline and added 2 quality players?
Yeah, I haven't really had much of a chance to be in and around. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes things that happen after a deal, the communication, the conversations, the roster moves that we're making to replenish for the loss of 2 players. So I haven't had a chance to really identify that, and that's not really our focus. Our focus is putting this club in a position to win, putting future clubs in a position to win, and as we've talked in the past, sometimes adding and subtracting, sometimes adding, they do play a role in the mentality and the level of belief in that clubhouse, and that's not reason why we made the move. We made the move to get better, and if that's a side effect, that's fantastic.
Neal, do you know yet when Chris is going to arrive, and also when he's going to make his first start?
I have only had a very brief conversation with Chris. I believe he was still in and around the Tampa Bay locker room, but he and I will connect and work through those details.
Was he the only starter you guys zeroed in on for the last 24 hours? Was it the fact that if you didn't get him, that you were going to stand pat, or?
We had conversation on starting pitchers, relievers, position players. So we were, as we've been every year, in on a number of things, trying to figure out what's real, what has a chance to happen, where you want to have it happen, and how do you make it happen. And but yeah, Chris was our target.
What about your offensive group made you decide not to add to that position?
The growth and advancement of the reestablishment in Corey's case, but the growth and advancement in Starling and Gregory's case, getting Cervelli healthy again, what Josh Bell did a year ago, what Josh Harrison has done several times. Jordy Mercer's just a solid, steady player. What we believe Colin Moran is going to do. We felt that our biggest impact was going to be an upper echelon starting pitcher like Chris Archer, a legitimate back-end reliever like Keone Kella, and we're pleased to add both those guys.
Is there a timetable on the players to be named when they'll be named, or when they can get selected, or?
Yeah, I mean, this is a player of significance, and Tampa will go through their process, and there is a date certain in the future. If they find who they want before then we'll let you know. If otherwise, when we get to that date certain, we'll let you know.
You know, one point that's been brought up already on radio and maybe on social media a bit is, did you feel the need to get Archer because the team surprised you to the point where you had to get a frontline starter that you may have already had in Garrett if he had been capped? Is there any correlation between the two there at all, or no?
No, not at all. Completely independent of each other. The ability to have Garrett Cole for this year and next was something that we thought about at length as we were talking about trading Garrett. The ability to add Chris Archer for this year and 3 more. It's why the acquisition cost is as steep as Garrett's was and is as steep as Chris's was, but no, completely independent entities.
You feel your system has enough outfield depth to withstand losing a player like Meadows?
We do. I mean, again, we've given up players of significance in these trades, but we also, because of the job that our amateur scouting department has done, our player development group has done, our professional scouting department has done, through trades, through minor acquisitions, through significant acquisitions, we like the depth of our system and feel like because of that depth, we were able to make 2 significant moves, not just the 1 significant move, but 2 significant moves, and retain players that we believe can help us next year and into the future continue to be a winning team.
Neal, understanding that I'm sure it's tough to trade young players who you drafted and developed. Is this fun at this point, to be able to go out and get players of significance like Archer and like Keller?
It's absolutely tough to sit across from a young player and tell him that he's going to become a really good player somewhere else. Those are hard conversations. We have so many people that have poured into each of these players and so much time, energy, and effort. That's a challenge. But to bring in a player like Keone Kella, to bring in a player like Chris Archer, that should impact us immediately, versus thinking somebody's going to impact you in the future, those are fun conversations to have. Absolutely. It's never easy to watch something go out the door, but we are really pleased about what's coming in the door to help this club win.
You've gone a lot of different ways when it comes to building a bullpen, but I can't recall you trading for someone that's been an established closer. Is that something of a change for you, or maybe just an acknowledgement of the sort of value that the bullpen has increased around the league recently?
We just felt really good about Keone Kella and the acquisition costs and the fit in our bullpen. It gives us another veteran back there to complement Felipe. We have complete confidence in Kyle and Edgar and what they've done, and it's a challenge to take Tyler out, but opportunity to just improve what was already a very good back end. The game is shifting that way, and the opportunity to add an innings-eating starter like Chris, just 2 really good adds for us.
Neal, any thoughts to changing roles in the bullpen at all? And I mean, will Felipe be the guy at the back end, or will you sort of maybe mix and match game situation-wise?
Clint and I have not really had a chance to spend a ton of time on that. As you can imagine, busy 24 hours, and he and I have had multiple phone conversations, but have not really gotten into that. I would fully anticipate Felipe will continue to be our closer. I would fully anticipate Clint now has 3 guys that he will feel very comfortable with in pitching in high leverage situations in the 7th and 8th, and now he has the opportunity to go get somebody he has a ton of confidence in the 6th if need be.
You know, you guys were pretty adamant that you would be a competitive team and possibly a contending team when you made the deals with Cole and McCutcheon. Did you allow yourself to dream about the possibility of being in this position on this day? I mean, is this something that's a surprise to you, or was this part of the plan?
Well, I wouldn't say we dreamt about this. You know, as we talked about where we were going this past off season, how we were going to get back to the postseason, what we needed to do to get back to the postseason. You know, talking with Bob, who was thoroughly engaged throughout this process, and gave us clear direction that if we believed in this group, now was the time to seize the opportunity to make significant additions, not only to this club, but to future clubs, to put ourselves in a position to get back to the postseason. And again, we were able to do that.
So how do you feel about pushing this across the finish line as opposed to 2014, as you talked about earlier in the week?
Ask me in about 5 years. No, we feel great. We do. You get a chance to add Chris Archer and Keone Kela to what we believe is a really good team, and you're not looking, man, if the next 2 months don't go well, it's about the next 2 months, next 3 months, but it's also about the next season, 2 seasons, 3 seasons, and again, I know I'm hammering that, but that is significant. We gave up a lot, but the belief was that this club's good, but it also positions ourselves to be one of those clubs next year and into the future.
This brought up because you mentioned you regretted it, you know, on Sunday.
Well, and that's where I said, ask me 5 years from now, because if we've won a World Series, then one of those years I won't have felt like there was something different we could have done. But if we haven't, then I'll always say, if we don't win a World Series, I could have done something differently, and that's on me.
Thanks, Neal.
Thanks, Neal.